project, this railway cannot be designed and constructed and operated without highly professional and motivated people. And with this academy, we want to encourage students to choose a future and a career in railways. Secondly, we also highly appreciate the work that is done by academic institutions and vocational schools in the Baltic states in the railway sector. And we want to contribute to this work by offering an informal learning opportunity on a very specific Rail Baltica angle, which is how to plan, design a high-speed European gauge greenfield railway. And for the first semester, this winter-fall semester, we have planned 4 sessions with Rail Baltica senior experts. We have selected the first topics based on our own agenda and our own interest. But going forward, we would like to hear from you. What are your interests and which subjects and topics you would like to hear from us? And to tell a little bit about this group that has signed up for this session, we see that we have participants from all 3 Baltic states, from technical universities in Tallinn, in Vilnius, and in Latvia. So we will be asking you, the students, what are your particular interests. But as for today, we will hear from Artūrs Caune, who is the project manager and coordinator here at RB Rail, and he will talk about Rail Baltica Engineering Challenge, how to turn a vision into an actual engineering project. We have planned about an hour for this presentation, and we encourage you to ask questions during the presentation. So please write your questions in the chat section, and we will take them every time we finish one subject matter to make sure that the questions get answered as we go, and this session remains as interactive as possible. If you want to make a comment or ask your question yourself, so then raise this virtual hand in the Teams platform. But from here on, I hand over to Artūrs. Artūrs, floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We have, I think.
No.
Let's start the first session, I will tell in the beginning a little bit about the Rail Baltica for those who are not so familiar, and then in several steps I will walk through the vision and mission, the appraisal methods, how to appraise the projects, namely the CBA concept, and also another tools, how to translate the benefits into real engineering work and ultimately into well-functioning railway. So I will be talking also about the operational plan of Rail Baltica and design guidelines. So altogether 4 major topics, and I think for this time it will be quite a fast overview. So as Liva told, I also personally would be keen to hear from you. Maybe you want to listen on some topics more into details. So please take your initiative and propose topics also then for further sessions. So what is Rail Baltica? We see Rail Baltica in a broader picture. It's not just a railway, and it's not a railway, only a railway connecting the Baltics. It's actually an economic corridor, and economic corridor in the Northeast Europe. So it means also, in other words, a game changer to what we have experienced so far in our countries regarding the mobility and also economic development. It's all about new standard gauge line, and it's all about promoting sustainable mobility and shift from other modes transports to rail. Short intro on key data. If we speak about Rail Baltica, then Rail Baltica covers actually 4 countries, but if we limit the dimension on the Baltics, so we are about to deliver 870 kilometers in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. What do we want is that this is a railway with high speeds in range of 249 for passenger trains and 120 kilometers for freight trains. It will be on standard gauge, so it is quite a difference from that what we have in the Baltics. In the past 70 years, 2 of Baltic countries have experienced also the same standard gauge system before the Second World War. But now we are all the countries in a different, say, broad gauge system or 1520 system. Also, when we talk about Rail Baltica, then it's about electrified line. So the line will be environmentally friendly and allow to move the trains without any local air pollution and significantly low emissions of greenhouse gases. We speak about the railway in technical parameters also, which is a heavy rail, so the axle load will be 25 tons. In terms of the traffic management system, we go for European train control system, so-called level 2. What's the difference? What we experience in the Baltics? It's completely different traffic management system, and there will be no line-side signals we experience today on the railways in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And we go for the freight trains so that we can accommodate the trains in the length of 1,050 meters. In other words, accommodating very long trains and delivering then also the operational efficiency for freight forwarders. About the passenger flow, when we speak, then we say that it's redesign of mobility. Why it's so? Because we are about cutting the travel times by half. So today, if we travel by car or by bus to the neighbors, between Tallinn and Riga or Riga and Vilnius, the travel times usually exceed 4 hours. So Rail Baltica will deliver the opportunity to cut the travel time, and it will be less than 2 hours, which would mean also that we get as many as possible passengers on board to integrate our economies more closer. Rail Baltica is not only for the intra-Baltic or inland transport, it's also the connection to the rest of the Europe, notably to Poland and further on to the south and to the west. In terms of freight, we also see great opportunities, and first and foremost, it is about serving our Baltic economies. Roughly speaking, Baltic economies generate around 100 million tons of goods in supply chain, so meaning that either these goods are going out from the Baltic countries towards other destinations or coming in. So not counting transit flows, which we have on the east-west axis. Furthermore, the freight will enable also to connect in a multimodal way another country, which is on the north of our Baltic countries, namely Finland, and we expect also Finnish freight to move through the Baltics on the Rail Baltica. We, as AG Rail, are the ones who are established by 3 Baltic countries in order to facilitate delivery and deliver the railway. So here you see our why, how, and what definition, and our role explanation in some detail what we are doing. As a joint venture, we look on the challenges and opportunities in all 3 Baltic countries, but also with a view of integration of the mobility and transport flows from to Finland and Poland. So the first essential why is that there is in fact a large bottleneck, as you all know. Then the land transport in the Baltics is mainly organized by road transport. So there is clear bottleneck and missing link. So the Baltics are not connected to the European single railway area in an interoperable and efficient way. Another argument on why is that the shift to rail will be a catalyst to the sustainability in terms of the climate change. So we help to mitigate the negative impacts. We contribute to lower CO2 emissions, and also we are here to improve overall the transport safety. Namely, the Rail Baltica will have an impact of reducing the road transport on north-south axis, therefore also reducing some accidents in the road transport, and this improving in the totality the safety in the transport sector. Last but not least, Rail Baltica is also of dual use, and this means that also defense interests are captured within this project. On how we deliver, we as the global project, namely Rail Baltica megaproject coordinator, want to do this in transparent and efficient way. So we coordinate and we do our parts of the implementation together with other implementing organizations across the countries. Also, regarding the transparency, I would already now suggest for the students, please visit our website. In the website we have quite a number of publications, different studies in technical nature, in business, in strategy nature, So we believe that sharing the information, especially when this information is paid by European and Baltic taxpayer money, it's important. So this is also one of the arguments why we do the Rail Baltica Academy. Next, on the how we deliver is that we want to deliver an economic corridor where the railway is the backbone, and this means also we develop high quality standards, and our delivery plans are based on them. We also involve the best expertise and knowledge in the market. Our suppliers are from many European Union countries, so and also our employees are from different European companies, so truly international project. What's more important, and now we are coming then to the point, it's that having a railway, it's not sufficient. Our ambition is to deliver the benefits and to enable by that what we are doing on our everyday duties, that these socio-economic benefits can be delivered in the railway operations phase by the operation by the infrastructure managers. So on the what we deliver, yeah, that's about the high-speed railway system, which should be climate neutral, safe, and interoperable. So the term interoperability means, in the essence, that trains running on Rail Baltica can run further across Europe, so making a truly operable single railway area. We also deliver mobility and business opportunities within the new economic corridor. So the interfaces are freight and logistics terminals, which will come as part of the infrastructure. Also the passenger stations or multimodal hubs with integration of different modes to interconnect with Rail Baltica, and this will reveal a lot of opportunities in terms of business development, in terms of regional integration. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, also what we are delivering is this so-called dual-use mobility infrastructure. In terms of mission, we see that our purpose is to contribute to connected Baltic Europe. And we see that what's our mission is we are delivering the seamless mobility. That's the key starter point when we think about how to capture the benefits. So the seamless mobility is a key, and we believe that through the seamless mobility we will accelerate social and economic development in the Baltics and beyond. So the short-term vision is that by 2026 the Rail Baltica is ready to start commercial passenger and freight train operations. And for us as a company, and we believe also across the global project delivery organizations, the most important values are the purpose, so purpose-driven, the people, and the professionalism. That's which are our central values in the company and in the Rail Baltica mega project delivery. So
very well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Artūrs. We have one question so far about your first part of your presentation, and we have Kaspar Sinis asking about some technical parameters of the project. So, what is the design load of the bridges?
Yes, we. Okay. Then I will repeat. So for sure, I cannot answer so specific question on the design load parameters for the bridges. These are fixed in our design guidelines, and for that we have the colleagues, the bridge engineers team, which are taking part. But about the design guidelines, I will tell you a little bit later, and will tell why it is. Then why we created design guidelines and what are the contents, what is the purpose. Yes. Yeah, we can. Okay, good. Then let's go ahead. So next step about the appraising the projects and the view on the projects, be it a simple project or be it a mega project. So when we are looking how to cascade down the benefits, we look on different dimensions. So first of all, it's all about end users. So the passengers in the trains in the future, also shippers and freight owners in the freight transportation sector. We look also at the rail business dimension, because if the rail business cannot earn the money, so there will be no rail business. Also, we look further on then on the railway operations, how they should look like in order to satisfy performant rail business needs. And ultimately, we look on the infrastructure, how the infrastructure should look like in order to satisfy those defined railway operations needs. So these are four essential steps how we look on our project, but I believe also in many transport projects that the same approach is used. And then we should not forget about the environmental and climate change impacts of a project, about the societal impacts and economic impacts. So these are, I would call them horizontal impacts, which should be also defined and monitored across the identification, planning, designing, delivery, and operation of a project, and especially in the case of a mega project. Another element of a holistic view is time dimension, so the life cycle view. So as I told previously, we are looking on on the starting from the planning stage into the delivery stage, later on in the operation stage, and this operation stage is quite long. So for Rail Baltica, we are considering 30 years timeline after first day of operation for the life cycle. However, in the design parameters, we have different life cycle estimates. So some of the structures design life is estimated to be 100 years, and for some systems, of course, years. So in terms of economics, we look on 30 years, in terms of the design, up to 100 years. Also, money considerations are part of the holistic view, so the financial and economic dimension. There are two essential aspects. So in terms of financial, so we are looking about the project and project stakeholders in a system. Is the project financially viable? And Rail Baltica is a project which is a public infrastructure. So the argumentation of economic dimension actually prevails, which means that a project shall deliver a benefit to the society rather than being financially viable. I will explain also a bit later what does it mean in some details while talking about the cost-benefit and analysis principles. And also, you cannot have a holistic view without considering the project implementation dimension, so the schedule, the scope, the cost of a project in its planning and ultimately delivery phase. For the students, I wanted also to call your attention to two European Court of Auditors reports in the previous years, namely in 2018 on the high-speed railways and in 2020 on the mega project implementation on European level. So this is very good reading, I would say, especially if you want to understand what a mega project is, which are the main challenges, how complicated the projects are, how many multidimensional they are, and how hard it is to deliver them. So I would say it is very good if you could spend some hours of reading, and I just wanted to highlight a few elements of what the European auditors have said so far. In 2018, the auditors said that actually there is no European high-speed rail network. This network is rather a patchwork of national high-speed lines, and which are planned then and built by the member states in isolation. So in case of Rail Baltica, we are trying to do exactly the opposite and to deliver a part of a high-speed network in a coordinated way among the countries. Also, another issue for the mega projects is the costs. The costs very often are estimated lower than they are at the end. But what is more important that there are two terms. It's cost increase and scope increase, due to which the costs are increasing. And we believe that reasonable increase due to the scope increase, providing better functionality, better performance of the railway is justified. Another important aspect could be, especially for those who are interested in economics, the European Court of Auditors provide comparison of different high-speed projects in terms of cost per minute saved. They didn't look on Rail Baltica in this report, but for our project, we are actually performing quite well, and let's say cost efficiency per minute saved is very good. Also, the auditors said there that the high-speed line should ideally have 9 million passengers per year to be successful, but as you can read also from our publications, the number of passengers will be less. And the response of Rail Baltica has been always that we are combining the mix, so we are about delivering the mixed traffic line, and this mixed traffic line means that we want to accommodate both the passengers and freight, and also we are about adding new services, new facilities to infrastructure, so that the infrastructure is performing better and better. In these terms, I can mention as example then the last plans that the regional stops is currently planned, and we are step by step introducing regional service concept on top of the international services, and this is one of the elements. Also, we look on the night train services as a potential further to improve the economic performance of the railway. 2020 report analyzed again the mega projects, and in this analysis also Rail Baltica was taken into account. And one of the conclusions of this most recent auditor's report was that many of the transport corridors of the TNT network will not be able to operate at full capacity by 2030. In these terms, Rail Baltica is performing in terms of delivery better, and we have ambition to start the operations in 2026. Also, the auditors revealed that member states have different national priorities, and these national priorities often prevail over the global project view, and this is also a normality in the mega projects, and we as a coordinator are tackling this issue every day. Last but not least, the changes in design and scope over time have led to cost increases. So I wanted once again to repeat how important is the project management structures, and how important is well and thorough planning of a mega project over the planning phase. So now moving to the tool number one, what I wanted to present to you, the cost-benefit analysis. It is widely used, and for those who are have economic background, I would believe that you are quite familiar. But for the engineers, this is not always the case. However, I would say that very much also for engineers, it would be good to get acquainted with cost-benefit analysis principles, because they allow to understand then much better the engineering challenging, and also helps then later on interpret the engineering solutions in a comprehensive way for the decision makers. Cost-benefit analysis as a method or a tool is intended to provide decision making. However, in the two previous reports, you will for sure also read that not always the cost-benefit analysis is used as decision making tool. So in our case, we are making many decisions based on the CBA, also the decisions which are mainly related to the financing of the project. The so-called Bible of the cost-benefit analysis is the cost-benefit guide. I have provided here on the screen a screenshot for the framework of the cohesion policy 2014 and 2020. Typically, for the CBA, there are few challenges in the logical steps to deliver the CBA. This is demand analysis, the option analysis, also operations and maintenance considerations, and last but not least, the interpretation of the benefits. What is actually then the most important part for the projects which are supported by the public money, notably the European Union funds, because the benefits side is the crucial in the decision making on funding. So the CBA is used first to answer on the very simple question: is society better off with the project or not? And if yes, then it means that this is a green light for a project to go ahead. The CBA looks in a holistic way on different benefits which shall be monetized and expressed in monetary terms over the project life cycle. In our case, this is the 30 years in operation phase plus then 10 years in the delivery phase. Also, the CBA insists on looking for the transport projects in a multimodal view, so looking on different modes and also on the pre-existing traffic, on the shifted traffic to another mode, and also generated and induced traffic. For Rail Baltica, so far we have done several feasibility studies with cost-benefit analysis elements and cost-benefit analysis in 2017. And these have been logical steps. So the first one provided some information for the decision makers in 2017 already, and there were presented several options which way to go further. And next feasibility study was already delivering more details, and these more details have provided insights on which corridors, which main technical parameters should be chosen, which cities shall be connected. So the feasibility study of 2011 delivered then two main decisions, so going the shortest and the most straight corridor from Tallinn via Pärnu to Riga, and then to the south via Panevėžys to Kaunas and further to Warsaw. And the second, also the study said that the mixed traffic is a main feature of the line, as the combination of the freight and passenger traffic will bring the most benefits to the newly built railway. In 2017, we did another cost-benefit analysis, and in this case, there was a major major question: is it feasible to fund, and what is then the so-called funding gap? How much funding is needed from the European sources to make the project viable? Looking into the future, we also are planning a next cost-benefit analysis update in the upcoming years, because we have also significant scope increases in terms of that we are adding the regional dimension, the regional stations, regional mobility, and for sure we need far more information to look into detail to this concept, and also we need to have an update on the basic parameters, be it traffic forecasts, be it cost estimates. In 2022, we will know much better what are then the technical designs of the railway. We will know also much better the cost estimates. Yeah? So in the upcoming years, we will have then an update. On the benefits concept from the methodology, I presented to you the concept, but what about the Rail Baltica? So you see that we have representation of different benefit groups, starting from the road safety to climate change, environmental aspects, and also passenger travel time reduction and freight supply chain improvements, which are in the essence more the improvements directly than to the end users in terms of the mobility and freight transport. And also, last but not least, environmental aspect is noise reduction. For the mega projects, we could also look on the dimension on economic impact. However, the European cost-benefit analysis methodology says economic impacts are not those which shall be considered in the CBA analysis, but the economic impact analysis we are also planning to do such analysis, show very good in a good way, which are additional, let's say, benefits of a mega project. And of course, not everything you can count. So we have also a lot of non-monetary benefits in the project, and these are also essential part on that why we are doing and why we are delivering the economic corridor, which essential part is Rail Baltica. On the European level, also the question is, what about the network effects? Because the railway line is not only a standalone piece of infrastructure, it is integral part of wider network area, in this case, European single railway area. And for Rail Baltica, we can say for sure we have very important network effects. Look on the example. Our economies are closely integrated with European Union, and very bulk part, or let's say the biggest part, is related then to the western dimension, and we can say that if we shift one lorry to the rail, so this lorry will travel in the Baltics only, let's say, 20 or 30% of its distance. So the rest of 70-80% of the distance of those benefits from of the shift from road to rail will be captured elsewhere in the Europe. Yeah? So we say Rail Baltica has huge network effect and also European added value. And last but not least, for those parts on the cost-benefit analysis, I wanted also to say that the Rail Baltica is a game changer. And this you can see in this simple, probably for you all already known graphical presentation of the high-speed travel times and rail market shares, which says that if you can get a railway service offer so that you the travel times do not exceed the 2 hours, so the other modes of the transport are well behind in terms of the market share. And in this case, this is exactly what we are doing. We want to connect the Baltic capitals within 2 hours or less. Okay, the questions.
Thank you, Artūrs. We have a couple of questions coming in. The first question regarding the operator. So how do you have idea how the operator for railway and for the passenger traffic will be chosen, and whether you expect enough passengers? If not, what is the plan for subsidizing the passenger traffic?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. This is a very well-known question, but this question is in somewhat also premature. First of all, in terms of railway operators, I understand that you mean the train operators for operating the passenger trains and freight trains. So we are we are delivering open access line. So it means that we expect free competition on the line between the operators, and we believe there will be sufficient business case for them to operate. In order to enable them, we also do in our project a lot of commercialization effort to prepare for the operational stage to attract those train operators here to the Baltics, so that we have the service offer already from day one. A bit different story is for the regional transportation, regional transport, and namely on Rail Baltica we plan to provide the regional express services. This is typically transport market segment which is subsidized by the governments. So this will be also then one of the agenda items to prepare for the railway operations to understand and to plan proper passenger service obligation contracts to order those trains, and this would mean also the cooperation between the member states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Ideally, it should be one integrated, well-functioning regional service, which covers also the cross-border sections and is not only the, let's say, national regional express service network.
Artūr, one more question. What is your expectations or forecast? How many cargo will be moved from road to rail?
That's calculated in the cost-benefit analysis. So I would suggest you then to visit again our homepage and look in the numbers. But we expect that there will be significant shift from road to rail, and it's our ambition to deliver the Rail Baltica in the way that supply industry is keen to use the railway as the, let's say, as the beneficial tool to improve the logistic supply chain.
Very well. This is so far we don't have any more questions. I think you can proceed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tool number 2, operational plan. you cannot actually deliver a railway without understanding deeply how the railway or the line will be operated. And in this slide, you see the so-called traditional approach and the integrated approach or modern approach, or often the integrated approach is also called Swiss model. So what we are doing, we started with the traditional approach, but we switched a couple of years ago to the integrated approach, as we understood that the market orientation or market-oriented offer is very important to improve the performance of the railway. It's very often like chicken and egg. The demand is highly impacted by the offer, and offer is highly impacted by the demand. And only then, when you have the clarity on the market-oriented offer in terms of the timetable offer, so it means travel times, service pattern, service frequency, service hours, and so on, the parts of the timetable, they are significantly impacting also the demand, and the better offer you have, the higher market share you can reach. And only then, once this is clear, we do the exercise on planning the proper railway infrastructure to accommodate those timetable needs, and only then it goes to the rolling stock. However, there is again a loop back because the rolling stock also impacts the railway infrastructure. And these are four essential steps for the long-term planning of railway development, and actually can be used both of planning new lines and also on the upgrade of existing lines. We have long delivery times, and for us it's clear that we have to make several iterations, and in ideal case you do this once, you fix it and you go ahead. But truly I do not know such examples. Typically this is iterative and quite a long and extensive process until we balance demand with the offer, and size properly the infrastructure, and have understanding of the rolling stock. And as I mentioned before, also an additional challenge is also the principle of being open access line. So actually we do not have a dedicated or incumbent train operator, so we are looking on the assumptions, and it makes of course our life a little bit more difficult than it would be in an easier case. But what we do in practical terms, we call for assistance the so-called shadow operator. So we are then looking and sourcing the expertise abroad from the infrastructure managers and from the train operators of the companies across the European Union to let's say to prefigurate the real operational phase. Last but not least, I wanted also to say that with the operational plan, we are looking again on the life cycle perspective, and we are assuming very long future, and this means that we are looking on the so-called target state, and in our case, this target state is 2056. So more than 30 years in the future, in order to define the maximum infrastructure needs. This is important to place properly place and size properly the stations, the passing loops, so that we do not have any capacity bottlenecks in the future, and that we have very smooth operation on the railway. And only then, when we understand the target state, we go step by step back. Then there is intermediate state. In our case, this is then a state of 2046. And we go also then back on the so-called pre-stage, which would mean that this is the assumption on the years when we reach full performance of the planned railway, because the first years of operations typically are those where we do not get full utilization of the forecasted transport demand, both in the passenger segment and in the freight segment. This we also have foreseen and planned in the cost-benefit analysis, and this is called take-up curve. So we assume the take-up curve for passenger trains, and we assume take-up curve for the freight trains, which in essence means that in the cost-benefit analysis we have lowered the optimism, which could be just applying the traffic forecast starting from day one at 100%. The operational plan itself covers a lot of topics, and it's not only the timetable, it's not only the track layout. It is a lot of also on the conceptual decisions regarding the traffic management, signaling. It's also a lot of already planning the operations in terms of staffing. It's also assessing the operational cost. So it's all about the maintenance strategy development, and it is also about the infrastructure dimension. It's about rolling stock dimension. It's all about maintenance organization and so on. So the operational plan concept as such is quite a challenge. And what we do is we have regular update, and we'll have regular update. The more mature the project is, the more specific the operational plan will be. It has clear link with the cost-benefit analysis, and also has clear link with the design, as the operational plan provisions enable the design teams to make the right decisions on how to design the infrastructure. Again, on Rail Baltica.org website, you can read the final report of the operational plan study, which we'll use for the definition of the operational plan. About the services, another slide I wanted to present to you is that as example on that what I said, the service pattern we have on Rail Baltica addressed the high-speed trains, the regional express trains, also the night trains, and many of you have heard, and in the Baltics it's very popular to say, we would love to travel from Tallinn to Berlin or from Riga to Berlin, and the night trains actually would be the enablers for such a travel approach. We also look in terms of the service pattern on international stations and regional stations. And for the timetable, what's important to say, the operational plan is proposing a cyclic timetable. We also desire to have a symmetrical timetable. We desire regular intervals for the train, and we also desire a multimodal integration of the railway networks. So as example, this would mean that in Tallinn, in Riga, in Kaunas, also in Vilnius. There is very good integration with 1520 network and also with regional and urban public transport network, so that we can tell it is a truly seamless travel with good connectivity connection possibilities. The key challenges are, of course, the transport demand, like in the cost-benefit analysis, and also the challenge is to find the right balance where we land. So to try to find the optimum between demand and service offer, so that we can maximize the passenger flow. And as I told also before, the uncertainty of open access line is that what we typically on day by day shall consider. But all in all, the development of an operational plan is iterative process, and this iterative process also continues during the design stage. So we have in the design stage the value engineering, master design, and detailed technical design phases, which are again having multiple interfaces. So the design decisions deliver input for operational plan update, and operational plan delivers inputs for design teams' decisions. So, and yeah, in the update, you can see also with the operational plan study, the new services is the scope change, and we also reflect with this what the European Court of Auditors said, that actually in the Baltics we should also have stronger look on the regional services, on the regional demand. And also the scope changes continue enabling further access to the line. So the more mature the project becomes, the more interests are from the local businesses, and we see then across the countries that there is interest to get an access to the railway line in regional stops.
Thank you, Artūrs. As far as regarding operational plan, we don't have questions now, so I suggest we proceed with the next part, and I encourage you to, dear viewers, to write your comments in the chat. Any question you want to ask about what Artūrs is speaking about, or some other subjects, please don't hesitate to ask.
Good. Then I would say the tool number 3 is the design guidelines, and already 5 to 6 years ago it was decided that we need design guidelines, and there are some answers why. Because Rail Baltica is something brand new in the Baltics. Actually, we do not have a proper reference documents. We do also understand that we cannot put 870 kilometers at once for the design. So there more than one design team working. So we need consistency, coordination, so that engineering is done in the same way. We also need some point of reference, so the guidance both for the contractor and also for us as contracting authority. Also, there is another external driver, technical specifications for interoperability, which in fact is, I would say, our Bible to meet the interoperability criteria. The design guidelines fix and explain some details of those criteria. Also, with the design guidelines, we standardize the solutions, so making easier the design decisions, not naturally to the extent possible. And also we look here with the life cycle cost perspective, so that we get life cycle cost optimized railway. So we strongly are looking on this concept, as we understand that this is very much a driver to get a performant railway. In our interest is to get a railway which is performant and has least possible operational expenditure. And also, when we developed the design guidelines, we understood that we need a guidance to get a competition neutral designs so that we can enable in the competition and between the solution providers and the construction companies. And looking on the left side of this slide, the hierarchy is that above design guidelines, we have European Interoperability Directive. We have then the European regulations of technical specifications of interoperability for the railway systems, then the so-called EN standards or the European standards. And then it comes to national mandatory legislation. And here I would say that this legislation is mostly related to the construction law in the Baltic countries. And then we have the design guidelines, which are the contractual requirements and guidance for the designers. Here I have presented just a table of contents, what is in the design guidelines. So the guidelines capture a very wide range of the requirements for the engineers, but also capturing functional requirements, capturing also visual identity, architecture, and so on. So for those design guidelines, we understand that the design guidelines are also an evolving document, so we do regular update. We have established change management procedure. For essential part of this change management procedure is the so-called technical reference group, where all representatives of the Rail Baltica implementing organizations meet, discuss those issues and adopt the changes in the design guidelines. Also, the specifics of the design guidelines is that the language of those design guidelines is very important to follow, because we have must, shall, should, may requirements, which mean different strengths of the requirements and also different guidance how to apply them. As the must is, as example, the requirement is a must, and the requirement implemented if there is some justification for this. Also, with the design guidelines, we cover quite broad range of the requirements. And one topic out of the big bundle of the design guidelines, adaptation to climate change. So we all know there is a Green Deal initiatives across Europe, and the Green Deal basically says we in Europe want to be first carbon neutral continent by 2050. And addressing climate change does not mean only to become climate neutral, but also to adapt to the climate change, which means, as we can all notice across the world, but also in Europe, the climate is changing. And we did a separate study and developed also the design guidelines with the information of climatic data. You can see just one example of this mapping, also climatic projections and the logical steps in exposure analysis, sensitivity analysis, thus later assessing the vulnerability of the infrastructure and identifying the major risks which shall be addressed then in the design stages or later in the construction stages or in operation stages of the railway, and these adaptation measures are also defined, and the design guidelines part includes then also the guidance for the designer how to do the climate change assessment, climate change impact assessment, and how to propose adaptation measures already at the design stage. So this is something what is also then quite new on European scale, and we did from our side, and now we are looking how it works, and are also keen to share our knowledge on this exercise. So that was from my side all in this presentation, going very quickly through the different concepts, different work practices, how we are working. Thank you.
Thank you, Artūrs. We have one more question in our chat, and the question is regarding design guidelines, and namely, did you draw up design guidelines independently, or you had some model guideline from other EU member states?
We were looking. This is across Europe. We contracted external service provider for this. We established also internal working group and external working group of the experts of the implementing organizations for Rail Baltica. So we were looking very much on the high-speed practices across Europe, but not only to the European practices. So we did it in, I would say, if I understand correctly the question, then in this way, in independent way, but very strongly looking on the experiences, benchmarks. We did also life cycle cost assessment of some, let's say, some decisions, and this was quite a challenging and tough work. We did it in 2016, already almost 5 years ago, and now the design guidelines approach is implemented in design, and how it works we will soon see with the quality of the designs.
And an immediate follow-up question: the design guidelines, where Rail Baltica design guidelines can be found?
The design guidelines are not public. Let's say they are of restricted use for the, let's say, professional use for the designers. However, on our website you can see some studies like climate change study, or some excerpts of the design guidelines, for example, for the regional stop concepts and visual guidelines. So these parts of the design guidelines you can find also in our documentation library, but the design guidelines as let's say a whole package is not publicly available.
So our next question is about rolling stock. Which locomotives will be used to transport freight, whether new or modernized, and where will the locomotive maintenance stations be located?
Mm-hmm. This is a very good question, but similarly as to the passenger trains, we are looking to enable different types of locomotives to run. So we take care about the geometry, also that we can enable also running long and heavy trains on the line. So the one thing I can tell you, let's say we enable electric traction on the railway, so that there will be no diesel locomotives. Yeah? But let's say the types of the locomotives, this will be a decision of the train operators, not ours.
Right.
The same also for the depots.
Thank you. And then I have one final question so far. Starting point in Tallinn and the final stop, where the passengers will, what will be the final stop for the passenger journey on Rail Baltica?
Fantastic questions. I like such questions very much, but there will be still steps and to go and decisions to make for the international trains, except that this will be then a competitive market. We believe in this, and we think that let's say the major travel, as you could see also from the presentation slides regarding the cost-benefit analysis, that there will be inter-Baltic travel, so mainly between the Tallinn and Vilnius, Tallinn and Kaunas, and also then further to Warsaw. Also, for the high-speed trains, we have then, I would say, in Warsaw we reach, let's say, this border where the railway is more competitive compared to the aviation, and also definitely for the cars. But further already then there are, let's say, a competition more in favor of the aviation, if of course the Green Deal initiatives and developments to let's say to restructurize modal shares in the transport across the Europe will of course enable also much longer distances, and for the night trains there could be opportunities even to traveling to Berlin and beyond, to Praha and beyond. But this is again matter then of business decisions already then in preparing the operations and in operating the train services. So there is still some way to go.
And there is a follow-up question regarding locomotives. So does diesel locomotives will not be permitted to operate, or they will have a different, maybe higher pricing to operate?
This is not decided yet. This will be clear then when the infrastructure will be ready for operations. Such decisions are again still to be made, but I could imagine both alternatives could be discussed. But what is the decision? This is of course still a decision to be made at later stages.
And here I take the last question from the group. Please describe the plans of Rail Baltica Academy. Are you planning to come and give lessons in universities, in transport sector, for transport sector students?
So we are doing this already, also me as a person. So if there is such a request, yeah, for sure. I think we can discuss about this also then on distance or in presence. Yeah, we would like to share our expertise.
Indeed, and on that note, I would like to tell that for Rail Baltica Academy, we have already a set next meeting, which is next week, same day, same time. We'll be here, the same place. We will be talking to our colleague Andrejs Mislevich, who is a signaling and communications expert at Rail Baltica, and he will speak about railway systems which we are planning to put in place to guarantee safety and speed and sustainability of the infrastructure. So please join us with Andrejs next week. We have also posted a short survey in the chat please fill in and give us your feedback. We are keen to improve so that the next time we're spot on what you're interested in. I know many of you have already signed up for the next session. I hope to see you all next week, and thank you very much from Artūrs and from Rail Baltica here. We're very happy to see so many of you joining this Rail Baltica Academy. So on that, thank you very much, and see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.